Igal,
Yeah.
you were very confident. Cheers, bro. I know you got to shoot. Igal, I know you were very, very confident that you were going to win tonight, and fair for you to feel that way. What was your assessment of how you played tonight, and what's your feelings like right now, mate?
Arsenal have many problems. Arteta's not one. And I just want to make sure we start with that, because Brandon and Connor and everybody who watched that game, tactics were not the issue. Execution was the issue. The players' lack of execution in the final third was the issue today. We had the better chances. We had continuously threatened them in the first 20 to 25 minutes. We were the better team for majority of that game. We just could not get out of our own problems. Thomas Partey today single-handedly gave them two of those goals. Two of those goals Thomas Partey handed to him. And you know what? Connor, fair play. You said Thomas Partey comes back doesn't mean we get any better. And you're right.
The amount of shit I got for saying that.
Fair play.
The amount of shit I got.
Fair play. You're 100% spot on.
Thank you. And I don't want to be proven right.
No, but you were 100% right in that situation. Thomas Partey today cost us. He was the guy who I was looking at as one of the saviors to come into this team and make a difference, and he did the exact opposite. He assisted them with 2 goals. Dilly-dallied on the ball for the second one. First one headed it right to Fabian Ruiz. Martinelli had no chance to save the ball from there and cost us the game. So that's number 2, right? We've already spoken about the friggin' the missed chances and the early chances in the game. Now let's talk about the defense. Mazu Uskeli, you've done well this season. Fair play to you. Today, you are not up to scratch. Kivior, you are what we expect you to be. You're a backup. You showed it today, and you are not up to the scintillating best that you were over the last couple of weeks. And William Saliba, get your fucking head out of your ass and stop thinking about Real Madrid. We had a serious game going on. This whole past couple of weeks, he's been a mess. We can talk about Gabriel being better or all this stuff, but Saliba, I expect higher standards from him as one of the best center-backs I rate across the world. Too many errors. Luckily, we didn't get punished. Luckily for him, we didn't get punished. And you know something? Everyone talks about the captain, Martin Odegaard, as disappearance act. The first 20 minutes, that's what I was missing from Martin Odegaard for this entire season. I was waiting for those kind of performances. What he had in the first 20 minutes was scintillating, but he did not show that consistency throughout the game. And Arteta, if there's anything I'm going to criticize Arteta for, is maybe he could have done substitutions earlier. Maybe he could have changed the game earlier. But overall, I'm not going to sit here with Arsenal having Mikel Merino at the striker, with Arsenal having multiple players, our key attackers, injured, having a PSG team who spent more than Arsenal have in the whole time Arteta has been here in the last 3 years. And you guys sit here and say, you know what? Well, Arteta's the problem. Arteta has to go. Bullshit. I call bullshit, and for 2 reasons. One, Arteta is the reason why we're in these kind of conversations in the first place, beating the Real Madrids, being in the semifinals of the Champions League with a squad that's depleted with no striker. The board let the manager down. Arsenal's board let us down by not addressing the striker situation in January, by not signing a striker in the summer, by not getting our priorities straight when we needed to. And hopefully, Andre Berta coming in can get those priorities straight, because we know what our issues were. We've not been clinical this entire season. We've not been able to finish our dinner the entire season. We have been in games tactically, one of the best set up teams tactically across Europe. But the team is the problem. The manager can only do so much when the players lack execution. Martinelli stands up the player, doesn't do shit. But Bukayo Saka, Starboy, one of our best players in the team, misses that gilt edge one-on-one chance at the end. We make fun of tap-ins. Well, he couldn't make that tap-in today. And Mikel Merino, fair play to you. Fair play to you, Mikel Merino. You've done well for the time that you've stepped in as a striker. But he's not a striker. He's not a striker. And everybody here is going to get onto Arteta. They're going to get onto everybody else. They're going to hold everybody accountable. But the reality of the situation is it was small margins. PSG beat us 1-0 in the first game. PSG beat us today 2-1. And we cost ourselves defensively, we cost ourselves offensively, and the manager coached a fucking win, and the players let him off the hook.
You mean put him on the hook? But yeah, I hear what you're saying. A few people in there saying this. you conceded 2 goals tonight. How's it on the strikers? In fairness to Igal, listen to, he's already condemned Thomas Partey for being accountable for that happening. So he has said that. And a lot of people are saying Igal's making excuses. You could argue he's making excuses for Arteta, but he is condemning a lot of his players here. That's not an excuse. That is holding people accountable. So let's be very fair to Igal. A lot of people will disagree that Arteta isn't a problem at all. That is fair to criticize him on. But Igal is not here making excuses for his players, as some of you in the comments section are saying. Igal, I want to defend Igal here. Igal has called them out tonight. So let's be very fair with the assessment that you're throwing at Igal. This year says, Igal, if you sign Gyökeres and Nico Williams and don't win a trophy next season, would you sack Arteta?
At that point, yes, because then we've addressed the attacking issues. And if he's still having the same problems, then at that point, you look at the manager.
So do you think tonight was simply about, it just showed that you've got a good team, you've got some very good players, but actually when you get to the nitty-gritty of the big tournaments, you just don't quite have good enough players, is essentially what you're saying, and you need to buy better players?
Terry, you've seen the bench and you've seen the attacking options we had to our disposal. It's nowhere near the top level. And it's simple. We have the tactics. We don't get outclassed by any manager in world football. It's small margins, which we lost by today. And fair play to Luis Enrique. I think if we had if we had the players Real Madrid had, Arteta would have won the Champions League. He tactically outcoached Carlo Ancelotti. At certain points he had this PSG side on the ropes, but we just couldn't take that final blow. And I think that's what's missing. The heavy hitters, the players who come into your team and make the difference. And we've been saying this for years, and you guys all on the panel say this, but yet when it comes to the conversation of Arteta, you want to ignore the conversation that needs to be had about strikers. But when we talk about transfer windows, you're the first ones to mention strikers. To me, it kind of seems like you want to ignore one conversation, but yet bring it up in another conversation.
Well, no, Gal, because we should have addressed the striker situation last summer.
Say two things can be right at the same time, Miguel. And what I mean by that is, we need a striker. Yeah, we need better attacking players, 100%. But two things can be right at the same time, in the sense that we could also need a better manager as well, mate. Yeah,
who's a better? Okay, the reason why I say we don't need a better manager is because Arteta tactically has coached wins in a lot of these big games that we've lost this season. Think about it. Manchester United, we had chance after chance after chance, and we still couldn't do nothing. Newcastle, chance after chance after chance, we couldn't do nothing. These players lack execution. And at what point are we going to continuously call out a manager that is getting these players to perform at a higher level than they are capable of doing, with no bench, with injuries left, right, and center? You guys don't rate the manager that is overachieving with a squad that is not ready to do what
Can I ask you a question, Igal, on that? Can I ask you a question that? So I want to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying right. Are you suggesting that if Klopp took over this team, if Enrique took over this team, or if Nagelsmann took over this team, they would still fall short because the squad isn't good enough? Is that what I'm hearing?
110%. You're not going to make Martinelli a better finisher right away. You're not going to make Mikel Moreno the auxiliary striker that's going to bag in 20 goals. Arteta's done his best with what he has at his disposal. Kai Havertz getting injured, Jesus getting injured. It makes a difference, and people are just going to say excuses. But the reality of the situation is we're facing a team that have spent more money than pretty much every team in the Champions League the last 3 years combined. Sorry, not combined, but in total. And also, we have major key pieces missing in this game. If we had maybe at least Kai, who could make a difference, because Trossard, you've seen the difference.
That's where we stop.
You've seen the difference. You've seen the difference. Trossard made. You've seen the difference. You've seen the difference Trossard made coming off the bench. As much as you don't rate players, it's very taxing on players when they're playing week in, week out.
Can I ask a question very quickly?
They have no options.
Is that okay?
Hang on. So,
go on, Brandon. Let us
real quickly, bro, because you just said it's very taxing on players when they're playing week in, week out. Who decided to play his full starting 11 against Bournemouth at the weekend, knowing that we had a important Champions League semi-final tonight?
You want to know something? That tactically worked because he worked on the Declan Rice.
Tactically worked. We lost the game.
Listen to me before you move on. Declan Rice in the first 20 minutes versus the Bournemouth game, they tried something which we have not tried the entire season. And it worked for the first 20 minutes versus PSG. So if they were trying something in that game versus Bournemouth as a trial, then I understand it. Overall, I agree with you. He shouldn't have done that. But guess what? It definitely benefited us in this game tactically because we were outclassing PSG. We just couldn't fucking score. So you tell me, did anybody get injured today? Did anybody get injured today? No. What happened today was we lacked execution. So stop mentioning things that are irrelevant. The Bournemouth game's already over.
It's not
These
irrelevant.
players
Brandon,
are
I've got
not,
a simple question for
these
a guy.
players are not injured. I'm just saying when it comes late into the game, when the game is when the players are getting tired late into the game, when you have no substitutions and you look over and it's only Ethan and Trossard as attacking options, that is on the board. That is on Edu and the people who ran the club and made this decision to sign players. As much as you want to criticize Arteta, as much as you want to criticize Arteta, you also have to look at the people making the decisions, and they've let him down year in, year out. They've let him short. They've let him short. We could have got Isaac. We could have got Rafinha. We could have got Mickey. We could have got Dusan Blahovic. None of them came through the door.
Stop getting so irate. Stop getting so. We're having a adult conversation here, right? I agree with you.
Yeah, you pussy. Sorry, I thought I'd lighten the mood with that old joke. Sorry.
Hang on. I agree with you. The board let Mikel Arteta down, especially in January. I totally agree with that, right? But when we're looking at a game like today, for example, where PSG scored the goal, I actually, in fact, getting into the game, right, I actually think that going to Paris under that type of atmosphere and all the rest of it, I was really seriously worried about how we was going to cope with the pressure of the occasion. And I actually felt like the majority of the players dealt with the occasion very well. There was only, Miles Lewis-Skelly who I thought looked like the occasion had got to him. Don't blame him because he's an academy kid. He's still learning. He'll probably learn from that, right? And he's, as most people have pointed out, he's been very good for Arsenal this season. It's one bad performance. Unfortunately, it's in a Champions League semi-final where you can't afford to have a bad performance, right? And I thought in the first 20, 25 minutes, we did play very well. We did create really good chances. And sometimes in the Champions League semi-final, you just need the luck and the rub of the green. And we didn't quite have that tonight. I thought Donnarumma was brilliant with his saves. Odegaard shooting from outside the box for once in his life. And, I don't know how a big guy the size of Donnarumma gets down as quickly as what he did to that. So, and he was class. Some of them opportunities, if we take them, we're probably talking about a different. But I think Terry's right in what he said in the beginning. Ultimately, it wasn't tonight that cost us. It was that first leg. We went to Paris tonight and we're chasing a game from minute one because because of what happened in that first leg. Now, obviously, we could talk about the fact that we missed Thomas Partey in the first leg, but the reason why I talk about the manager a lot is because that first leg, as I say, is the leg that cost us, and he got it wrong in that game. He decided to drop Mikel Merino back into midfield when he was doing so well as a striker. He decided to not trial Lewis Skelly in his natural midfield position and play a natural left back in Kieran Tierney, And what he did in that game didn't work. We didn't perform very well. The players also had to hold accountability for that. And I think ultimately that's what cost us. Yes, if Bukayo Saka scores that chance that he had right at the end, maybe again that gives us a boost to go on and potentially win the game. But ultimately, we went into this game chasing it, and I think it was always going to be a difficult task, especially with a side like PSG who've got pace and power, that can hit you on the counter attack. So the reason why I want to, because while we're on this manager situation, the reason why I want to talk about it, it's clear and obvious to see where the problems are for Arsenal. We all know this, right? That's the 8th semi-final game for Arsenal under Mikel Arteta. 4 semi-finals we've been to. This is over 2 legs, by the way. 4 semi-finals we've been to in all competitions, and we've only scored once. So that tells you that Arsenal lack, like Higal said, the clinical edge in front of goal, the technical ability in front of goal. And I totally agree with him on that. The reason why I want to point out the manager again. And I think a lot of people are starting to come around to this sort of thinking. It's not that he's done a bad job. Nobody's saying that. I think everybody's got to be thankful for him getting us into a position that we are now. But ultimately, when it comes to crunch time, when it comes to the most important times in the season, when it comes to the most important games in the season, you look to the manager, and sometimes he has to be there to also guide you through the game and to carry you over the line. And again, when we talk about the first leg, the lack of substitutions when things were going wrong in the midfield, you know, we didn't see Ethan Nwaneri until the 89th minute. We didn't see him at all tonight, even though there was nothing to really lose. We see the same thing in the game last season against Aston Villa, when we should have won or could have won the game at home, and that would have won us the league title. The same again the season before. We ultimately messed up because he decided to bring Zinchenko back into the fold after he hadn't played for a while and we was doing so well. These are the little things that I look at the manager in particular, not so much his tactics, but just his in-game management and his decision-making, which ends up costing us. And that's why I think that personally, we need a better manager to take us over the line. I don't think it's anything.
And Brand, that's where I think that's where I think. Listen, and I understand where you're coming from, and that's why I don't. Gal said a lot of things that were right about Arsenal tonight, about players. The idea that Arteta isn't any of the problem, that's not necessarily true, as you say. The fact that, you know, I don't care that Ethan Nwaneri, where's he, 17 or 18 now?
17.
Yeah, 17.
17. Look, Yamal was killing it. You got Dewey on the pitch, he's 18 years of age. I think tonight, Odegaard did okay in the press, no doubt. But you're 2-0 down. Give your young Maverick 25 minutes to go out there and see what he can do as an example. Those things you can't ignore when it comes to Mikel Arteta. For me, that's just I think you're not doing things right.